Welcome back to the Sense of Life podcast. I'm Joe.
And I'm Cody, and I almost coughed just there, so...
Fuck, we fucked it up already. And today, today we're leaving that in. I don't care. Today we are doing an episode that is dedicated to the recently deceased William Friedkin, who died August 7th of this month, August 2023, at the age of 87.
Yeah, we lost a king. We started this podcast dedicating to a departed director, and we're not ending it, but this is another episode dedicated to a departed director. And this was one of the few celebrity deaths that actually hit me pretty tough.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, obviously you hate to see it. So why not have an episode dedicated to one of the greatest filmmakers ever to live? And I mean, on the one hand, you've got an episode with you know what you're gonna do, because as soon as I heard the news that he had died, it was like, well, we got to do an episode. But at the same time, you don't want them to die, so that you have an easy episode to pick.
Yeah.
It's we didn't go with his most famous film, The Exorcist, but we did go with The French Connection, which is his other, like, most well-known film. And
I think that's the one that he won Best Director for, was The French Connection. I don't think he won for The Exorcist.
I would say probably
100% sure on that.
I would say The Exorcist is definitely, like, his movie with the most cultural reach, as far as like.
I mean, he even said this in, like, multiple interviews. He's like, when I die, it will say William Friedkin, The Exorcist director, has died, and that's exactly what it said.
Right? Yeah.
The Exorcist is the possessed child in the room. Instead of an elephant in the room. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I had no clue what you were trying to say there. I was like, are you just trying to explain the premise of the movie? What?
Really? So awful joke.
Joke. I didn't even know it was a joke until you started.
This poorly structured, poorly formatted. We're not cutting it because that's funny to hear me.
If he were here, he'd call you a fucking idiot.
Yeah. I would be the referent to his Friedkin.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I
think that joke is a masterpiece, but
Oh, I'm like you. I have no regrets about Only God Forgives. I think it's a masterpiece, and it is. I just didn't make it very expensive.
Is there a doctor in the house? We need to get a medic in here. Is there a doctor around?
So yeah, we chose to do The French Connection and To Live and Die in L.A., 1971 and 1985, respectively. And from what I read about To Live and Die in L.A., it's interesting to kind of see the cultural shift of, like, film criticism with the decade of the 80s.
Yeah.
Because that movie was criticized in its time, and some of the stuff that I was reading was mainly focusing on the gratuitous violence in To Live and Die in L.A., which it's kind of interesting to see that sort of change there, because, like, The French Connection was, I'm pretty sure at the time it came out, was pretty universally, like, praised. So it's interesting to see a movie made by the same director that, I mean, in my opinion, I thought it was just as good of a film, being kind of thrown down in the mud for essentially the same subject matter that the other one had.
Yeah, it has an interesting production history. The big thing is the feud with Michael Mann that happened. I don't know if you heard about this.
No,
with To Live and Die in L.A. So Michael Mann had actually attempted to or succeeded in, I don't know what, but he tried to sue Friedkin over To Live and Die in L.A. because he alleged that To Live and Die in L.A. was basically a remake of a Miami Vice episode.
Oh, really?
And yeah. And stylistically, it's very Michael Mann-y, sort of. It feels more Friedkin than Mann to me, but
Mhm.
I see the connection. And I was thinking about it when I watched it today, that if you know how like M. Night Shyamalan talks about his movies like feature-length Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah.
This does feel like, I mean, I haven't watched too much of Miami Vice, but it does feel like a feature-length Miami Vice episode in a way. It's a lot like that Miami Vice movie that Michael Mann made.
Okay. I have not seen any of Miami Vice, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that.
Yeah, and
That's-
there's some interesting connections too, because William Peterson, who stars in To Live and Die in L.A., he was in Michael Mann's Thief. I don't know what he plays, but he also starred in Michael Mann's Manhunter, the Brian Cox Hannibal Lecter movie he made.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting. So do we want to start with the French Connection because it's the older of the two movies, or what? We've started going into To Live and Die in L.A. a bit here already.
Well, we could just do To Live and Die in L.A. first, because I think the French Connection is the more important movie.
Sure. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
when I started watching To Live and Die in L.A., and I was looking at the opening credits and all that, and I was like, "Oh shit, Willem Dafoe's in this!" Like I knew nothing about the movie before I watched it.
Yeah, Demon Twink Willem Dafoe is in this. Yeah.
That is what I said. He has like, it's like Willem Dafoe with the teenage John Connor haircut from Terminator 2.
Yeah.
I called him I said that Willem Dafoe makes a good emo twink villain in his youth, and he does.
Yeah.
That's just a fact.
Gay icon.
And John Turturro is also in this movie, which was cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
This movie was made like before either of them were particularly famous as well. Like I think Platoon was kind of the movie that put Dafoe on the map. I might be wrong about that. And
that's probably true, yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, has John Turturro ever been like a particularly big celebrity? I don't know. I mean, I guess he's known for like some Coen brother stuff.
He's one of those like very workman character actors that like just is in a lot of things, but not the average person may not be able to tell you who he is, but he's in everything.
Right.
So he's been around.
Yeah. Either way, it was really cool, I guess, to see that.
Yeah, and William Peterson actually, with this Miami Vice connection, he would go on to be like big in the CSI shows.
Mm-hmm.
So he went from an arguable ripoff of a cop show to a cop show.
Right.
And he doesn't really do movies anymore, which is kind of sad because he's really great.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to just kind of give like a brief like synopsis of kind of how the plot is structured.
We can try. I was having a hard time defining exactly what happens in the movie. I have a pretty good idea.
Well, I mean, I guess to put it pretty simply, the main character, Secret Service agent Richard Chance.
Yes.
He and his partner's like the stereotypical guy in a cop movie who is like 3 days from retirement, literally 3 days from retirement at the beginning of the movie. And it's
I think he says I'm too old for this shit.
He also, yes, he does say I'm too old for this shit. And I was like, oh god, he's gonna die. And then he gets him a retirement gift of like this really nice fishing rod. And I was like, oh fuck, he's definitely gonna die.
Yeah.
And then he said, oh, I have to go scout out this thing. Don't. And then he's like, oh, want me to come with you? And he's like, no. And I was like, he's dead. It's over. Like he's fucked.
It's so over.
He's fucked. And then he went to whatever he was staking out, and sure enough, he fucking gets killed.
He gets fucked.
Yeah.
Demon Twink Willem Dafoe says you're in the wrong place at the wrong time and kills him.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, that was brutal. It was.
Yeah.
I'm always a
the
fan
opening.
of. Yeah, I'm always a fan of movies with squibs where like they just show you straight on like this is like there are shots in this movie where someone gets shot in the face, and it's just like boom. You're like, holy shit, that was great. that was one of them.
Friedkin's the type of director that, like, when you're staging a kind of action scene, it's kind of hard to put to words because it's a very visual concept.
Yeah,
but but like when you can feel the tension ramping up. When you know something's going to happen, you don't know when it's going to happen, and it happens really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like a long, drawn out like Revenge of the Sith sword fight type situation, but it's you feel all of that emotion at the right point when you need to, and it really works for this type of thriller that Friedkin was really kind of a master at, especially if you've seen Sorcerer, which we aren't talking about today. But
yeah, I've unfortunately I've only seen 3 Friedkin movies, and 2 of them I've watched in the last 48 hours. So, that being said, I had seen The Exorcist. I think this is, of course, we're talking about 2 completely different movies, and
yeah,
you're talking about Friedkin. You got to bring up The Exorcist. I watched that first time I watched that movie. I think I was at my grandparents' house, and I was like, like 13 or 14 or something. And it's
Did you like have nightmares for a week or something?
No, I the thing is, like, I reached a point like halfway. What do I mean halfway? I'm gonna say halfway through my childhood, but how do you even define that? Like, I guess there was a certain point. Like,
9 years old, actually.
Sure.
Would
Okay.
be halfway through your childhood.
Yeah. You know what? Fair. What are numbers? Math? No, I don't know that shit.
I guess unless you're considering adolescence the end of childhood, in which case
who knows?
6.
Yeah.
I don't know. Math.
Point being, I didn't know what I was talking about when I started forming that sentence.
Yeah.
So,
Many such cases.
Yeah, it happens all the time. The point I was going to make is that, like, at a certain point, I just wasn't really scared by horror movies anymore.
Sure,
but,
yeah.
That's not to say that in the moment it doesn't freak me the fuck out, but like it just kind of got to the point where it's like I don't really have nightmares about things anymore. But that movie was like, holy shit, just fucking incredible.
Yeah, it's I didn't watch it for the first time until like a couple years ago.
Right.
When I like got like heavy into movies when like lockdowns happened and I didn't have anything to do.
Yeah.
So of course you just become a cinephile. That's the obvious
Naturally.
answer.
It's called character development.
Yeah. It's called the hero's journey, the call to adventure or whatever.
The call to adventure, yeah.
So I watched it. So I was like an adult, so it didn't really scare me in any way. But it actually, I might have actually just watched it like last year or something. But anyway,
Okay.
it didn't really scare me, but it was like really effective. Friedkin has these really like awesome opening scenes. At least these like 4 movies we've mentioned, only 2 we're technically talking about, but The Exorcist is the quintessential like cold open movie. of
Yeah.
starting in like the Middle East or something, and you get the Pazuzu statue and whatnot, and you don't really know what's happening, but it's scary as shit.
Right.
And Sorcerer has a similar opening to French Connection, where French Connection starts in France, but Sorcerer you kind of go because it's about a bunch of people all over the world that wind up together for this mission. So you go all over these different countries, and they're not speaking English. And like I watched Sorcerer with my dad. I also happened to watch French Connection and To Live and Die in LA with him. I don't think he liked either of them, but anyway, neither here nor there. Sorcerer, we're about like 15 minutes into a movie, not a single English word is spoken.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Is this movie in English?" And I was like, I think so."
That's great.
But it stars Roy Scheider, so yeah. But there's also like extended sequences of just no dialogue. It's almost a silent movie at times, and it's really good.
Right.
It's what Friedkin considered his masterpiece, and is probably true.
I'll have to watch that
Unfortunately, it opened the week after a little sci-fi movie called Star Wars opened, and it was a box office bomb.
Is that why he threw a jab at sci-fi movies in To Live and Die in LA?
Probably. I mean,
you don't remember the scene I'm talking about?
Remind me.
There's a
I know what
part.
you're talking about, but
so basically, John Turturro's character is like he's a mule for Willem Dafoe's money printing operation. They make counterfeit bills, and he's got John Turturro's character. I think his name is Cody, actually. Believe it or not.
Yeah, Carl Cody.
And he's like a mule carrying this cash for him, and he gets caught by the main character, and he's put in prison. And Willem Dafoe basically, his character, I think his name is Masters, Rick Masters. He says basically like, okay, well, this guy's going to flip, and he like pays this black guy to get his homies in the in jail. I don't know why I said it like that. He gets it. Basically, he pays this guy to get other dudes to fucking kill John Turturro in prison, and like the scene starts, and him and this other guy are like sitting on a bench out in like the courtyard, and he says like, "Oh, did you see what they had playing in there? In like what movie they had playing or something?" And then the other guy's like, "No." He goes, "It was some fucking I forget what he called it. It was like Galaxy something. Like it sounded like a fictional sci-fi movie name that they had made up just for the scene.
Galaxy Quest?
Was it? I don't even remember.
Maybe. I don't know. That's a real movie.
I don't remember what it sounded like a made up name when he said it in the movie. And then
I didn't catch that, but it could very well be a Star Wars jab.
and then he's like it's all sci-fi. Like they didn't care for it basically. And and then he gets shanked, but he doesn't die. He gets like the guard in the tower shoots around them, and he doesn't get stabbed too bad. But yeah, like that scene was pretty funny.
Right, yeah. John Turturro, who was also in Refn's Fear X, right?
Yeah, he was the main character.
Yeah. And Refn cites Friedkin as probably his primary cinematic influence. And I think To Live and Die in LA is the movie that Refn would be referencing, if anything.
Refn string?
Fuck.
Fucking awful.
Awful. Refn ruffian behavior.
So, I like how now this also might be something that kind of ties back to what I had mentioned earlier about the changing of maybe not the American public view of film, but certainly like a critical one, where one of the points being made in one of the reviews of To Live and Die in LA was that the person couldn't find anyone in the film to root for. And it's like, yeah, like every character this was pretty shitty. But
Yeah, but I don't know. I still find myself rooting for the quote unquote protagonist to, because it's, I think Friedkin, and there's this clip I might try to send you. We might try to put it in here somewhere,
Mhm.
of Friedkin talking about like how he views the things he does. A lot of people, since he became so famous because of The Exorcist, they view him as, one, a horror director, which is not really true,
Mhm.
and two, a genre director, like, not to be an objectivist, but qua genre.
Right.
Uh,
Gotta
but
throw in that
he,
qua.
yeah, just hit him with the qua, you know.
Poor qua.
um, so the way he uses genre is, I think, ironically similar to a way that I think George Lucas would uh, talk about genre, of kind of archetypal, like Joseph Campbellian type of things,
Right.
of the state of the human experience and the human psyche. Whereas, like, because I've seen this movie twice now. The first time I watched it, I couldn't quite get into it. I liked it, but I couldn't. I couldn't quite. It didn't quite penetrate. Same with French Connection.
Mhm.
But this last time watching it, one, I kind of fell into the groove with it. It's the other connection to like the Michael Mann movies is it's kind of a vibe kind of movie.
Right.
uh, and so instead of trying to like answer specifically what's going on in the plot, you just kind of let, like what Jacket Perfume Nationalist always says, like, let it wash over you, and you just kind of let it happen. I was like doing other stuff around the house while I was watching it, and you just kind of fall into it. And his view of the way he makes movies is not making genre movies, but using the genre conventions to say something about the human experience. And he sees himself in that way, and like the way Hitchcock probably saw himself in a similar way.
Right. I
I
suppose
hope that made sense.
I kind of let you finish that point because it's it's interesting to hear elaborations on that sort of thing. But to clarify, when I said that when the guy said he couldn't find someone to root for, and I was like, well, yeah, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
Um, there's a car going by right now. What the fuck? To kind of clarify, like, I guess that's kind of the sort of people that would watch a movie and see like a single moral fault with a protagonist and being like, I can no longer root for this person to succeed, even if like what they're trying to do is right. Like taking down a counterfeiter that fucking blew a guy's head off that you knew. Like that is an
Yeah,
admirable
yeah.
goal. But the thing about his actions is that he's so driven by this goal, and he kind of just doesn't care about how he gets the job done. He's willing to do basically anything to catch this guy, and it's like, well, that's his undoing, really.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's more of just like matter of fact. That's what the story is. That's not like it's a weird way to judge a movie, to say, to just describe how a character is characterized and being like, that's the problem with the movie. you know
Yeah, it's like, maybe the movie wasn't for you.
Right.
I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's the movie. Like, what else do you want?
Right. If all the characters were characterized in a different way, it wouldn't be that movie. It would be a different movie.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
might be a
like,
Michael Mann movie. No, I'm
if
kidding.
you want to see that movie, maybe make it, or look for one that's more like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it also had a pretty baller fucking chase scene at the end as well. Same with the French Connection, really. Both of them had like really good
Yeah.
chase sequences at the end, and uh the to kind of see, to go to where the depths to which the the main character will go to catch uh Masters and bring down his counterfeiting empire.
Mhm.
They need to, they go undercover and pretend to be like potential buyers for his counterfeit currency, and they have to front him $30,000 in order to get him to print the money that they're trying to get, so that they can bust him in like a sting when he hands them the counterfeit money. And I think it was like the chief basically tells them, because you always have to have the chief that won't let you do what you need to do as an archetypal police character as well. And he says that the limit is $10,000 is what the department can do for like sting operations and stuff. So they just decide, hey, I guess one of the things that is kind of established earlier on as well is that the main character has like this woman who's like his informant, who is also like, she at some point she was like a criminal, or I guess she still is a criminal, but he's basically extorting her to get info for him. And she tells him that there's like this guy that's coming with like I think it was $50,000 that they were that this guy was flying into LA to buy like stolen diamonds or something. And so instead of, because they can't get the money legitimately to do the sting or to set up the buy to do the sting operation, they decide they're just going to fucking rob this dude for $50,000 and use and put that toward the sting operation. So it's like, and they go behind the chief's back, obviously, because the chief is not going to allow them to fucking commit an actual robbery. And they catch this guy, this like Asian guy at an airport, and they just bring him into their car, and they get the $50,000 from him, and they're being chased by these dudes that have like one of them has like a fucking like M16, and he just shoots the guy that they just took the $50,000 from. That guy gets shot in the back and just dies. And so they like drive off with all the money, and like the car chase in The French Connection is just like the guy is on a train, and the train is going down a particular path, and the guy, the main character, the detective, is just following the tracks. It's a very, very well made chase sequence, but this one had like at some point I was like, holy fuck, how many people are after them? There's like 15 different cars. There were like people with Uzis and fucking other guns shooting at them. I was like, oh my god.
They just like keep coming out. It's almost like that, like where I was talking about that archetypal thing of like it's kind of going surreal in the like how their actions are going to cost them, and just the corruption of becoming a criminal in order to chase one. And it's very much a Hitchcock type, like your obsession is your own undoing, regardless of
what side of the law you're on.
Yeah, and the ends don't really justify the means. If you're living in reality or whatever.
Right, yeah, that is basically, I would say, one of like the main things to take away from the movie, because like it is later revealed that the guy that they had taken this $50,000 from was actually an FBI agent that was participating in his own separate undercover thing. And their actions of, oh, well, it's just some deadbeat criminal that we're stealing money from to get this other guy, blows up in their face, and they got, a good guy, a guy on their side of the law killed for their crusade against this dude. And I guess it's also worth mentioning that after his main partner that was like retiring dies at the beginning of the movie, he gets a new partner, and his new partner is not really on his level of I guess he hasn't taken the dive that Chance has in his character of being willing to do basically anything, because as soon as he finds out that they got an FBI agent killed, he's like in shambles the rest of the movie, basically. And
Right,
as any
yeah.
normal person would be.
Yeah.
But it basically doesn't phase the main character at all.
Now, one thing that kind of threw me off both times I watched it,
Yeah.
did Vukovic, which was his second partner,
Yeah.
did he actually shoot the Asian guy?
No,
Or
I
or
think
did
he
someone
thought he
else
did.
shot? Yeah,
He-
I know he thought he did. And it's not really confirmed whether he like accidentally fired it when they were getting fired on, or if the guy with the sniper actually shot that guy.
Well, from
I missed something. Or
from my memory of the scene, what happened was the guy that was up, they were down underneath like a bridge, and the guy was up on like
Yeah.
the overpass shooting down at them
Right.
with like an M16 or something. And
yeah.
I think another car pulled up near their car on the overpass, and he looked to the side to see who it was. The guy with the M16, this is, that looks off to the
Yeah.
side while he's shooting at them, and while he looks away, he fires a shot that goes directly into the back of the FBI agent that dies in that spot. And that's what I thought happened. Like, they didn't even mean to kill that guy either. Like, it was just like,
Yeah.
just pure dumb chance of a bullet flying and hitting this guy. But I mean, at the end of the day, his guilt is still, real, and it's still him and the other guy's fault that it ever happened, because
Yeah.
they fucking robbed him, and they put him in that situation where bullets were flying. But yeah, that, to my understanding, that's what happened. Was like the people that were shooting at them got distracted by another car pulling up, and
Right, yeah.
accidentally shot him in the back. So yeah, that's what I think it was.
Sure, yeah. One thing about this one that I think I might have been a Letterboxd review I read, or maybe it was a podcast I was listening to, because there was another show that was doing a Friedkin memorial that I was listening to. And yeah, I think it was that. They were talking about To Live and Die in LA, and how the plot centers around like a counterfeiter, and how this is like kind of like a basic bitch film bro thing to say, but that like it's the 80s, so the thing is about money or whatever. But more than that, it's like the idea of a counterfeiter just feels so like passe now. Like who would counterfeit money now?
Yeah, right. Where like 80, somewhere upwards of like 80% of all currency is digital and not even like real anymore.
Yeah, and I got to thinking about, in that kind of like archetypal way, that maybe like Rick Masters is almost and maybe this is like a post hoc reading of the movie, but Rick Masters is basically the idea of like a central banking authority. Like they just print money to solve a problem.
Right.
And
I mean, that's kind of a point that is made in the movie when when he tries to get the black guy to get his fellas to fucking kill John Turturro's character, and they fuck it up. He shows up at that guy's house, and he's like, "I need my counterfeit money back that I paid you for that job. I can't afford to have it out in circulation right now." And he's saying how he needs the money back because he paid them half of the money up front to do the hit, and then it failed, so he wants it back. And
right.
And then that guy basically says, "Well, I can't, because I had to pay up front to get them to do it as well. So like, you paid up front to me and I paid up front to them. So neither of us have the money." And then he tells him basically, just go get some paper, go get some ink, and print more.
Yeah.
He basically just tells him that.
And then and even Masters is like, I can't have it circulating right now. It's literally monetary theory. It's like macroeconomics.
Right. It's also kind of interesting. It's like, it's an 80s movie, and the opening like sequence of the film, you have like a speech from Ronald Reagan playing in the background.
Right, yeah.
And the whole movie is about like this sort of
The excess of the 80s.
Yeah, it's I guess it's kind of like how the French Connection was about like heroin and drugs and dirty cops in the 70s. This one is more like corrupt authority and the excesses of like
and
money
they're even
and stuff like that.
They're even federal agents. I just realized that.
Yeah, they were Secret Service.
Which I thought was strange when I was watching. It's like, what, Secret Service? And
Yeah.
now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, right, yeah, the central bank counterfeit. Okay, that makes sense.
Right,
And it's literally End the Fed, the movie.
the
Based William Friedkin.
yeah. Damn, I had a point about that I was going to make.
While you think about that, another thing I noticed was in that scene you were talking about where he's going to get the money from like the black gentleman.
Right.
That part like weirdly reminded me of the one scene in True Detective where they have to go into that like projects neighborhood.
Right, yeah.
There was something about that scene that reminded me of that, like a smaller scale version of that.
Right, where there's a tension going on with all the characters in the house, and then all of a sudden it just explodes.
Yeah. And like it made me think of like where I was just talking about like how making a crime movie now, like would you include a counterfeiter? Like I don't think so. that just feels like so passé now. And True Detective is like, yeah, the crime is like child sex trafficking. Like that's the crime now. It's either like fentanyl or pedophilia.
Right.
That's all that will like get us like in that zone now, because everything else is just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like when you look back at like the video game arcade Narc from like the late 80s where like the entire premise of that game is like, oh, there are these drug addicts on the street, fucking blow them up and kill them, and you know like you play as a cop and I'm like 90% sure his name is Max Force.
Awesome. But and I had just seen there was a trailer.
The main characters' names are Max Force and Hitman. and they go around killing drug addicts for the police.
Hell yeah.
Like that's the premise of that game. And it's like
insane.
It's like a weird cultural relic where like the idea of like, oh, there's some heroin addict in a big trench coat on the street, throw a grenade and blow him up to get points. It's just insane.
Crap, I lost my train of thought.
Ooh.
Did you remember what you were thinking of?
Yeah, I actually did. It was the scene where Totoro's character gets busted. And Agent Chance is like chasing him down the hallway, and he chases him into the men's room, and he kicks down one stall door, and the guy's like, "Hey, what are you, some kind of freak?" And then he looks under the thing to the other one, and he sees the shadow moving. Like Totoro is standing on the toilet, so he won't see his legs, but his shadow is still fumbling, so he sees him. And he kicks the door down, and he pulls him out, and he's got the gun to him. And then like the airport security guy busts in. And he points the gun he points the gun at him, and he's like,
freeze, motherfucker.
He's like, freeze. And then he turns around and he's like, I'm a Secret Service agent, and he shows him the badge. And then his new partner busts in with his gun. And he points it at the mall, the airport security guy. And he's just like, FBI. And then like a fourth guy is standing in the background, and he's like, I just came here to take a leak.
And he turns around and walks away.
Yeah, he does. Man.
Even the comedy in a Friedkin movie just comes out of nowhere.
It was a flawlessly executed like chase into like the arrest. And then you've got like the tension of like the cop comes in,
the Mexican standoff, and then the punchline.
Right, exactly. It was so good. I loved it.
Incredible. Oh, such a banger! I love her name's Darlene Flugel. Is she a prostitute? Like she's the informant character.
I
I
honestly
really
have
liked her.
no fucking idea what she is.
She was hot. That's all I knew.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
And then how the movie ends with Vukovich wearing like the Richard Chance like black clothes and the sunglasses. It's really funny how he like becomes like the master or whatever. And he comes in and is like, the movie ends with "You work for me now."
Yeah, it's funny how his character changes from like he was the one that was very much concerned about the fact that they got an FBI agent killed, and he was talking to a lawyer about like the best means of avoiding as much jail time as possible, but still like kind of getting the truth out there so that this FBI agent's murder doesn't just go unsolved.
Right.
And by the end of the movie, after he witnesses, because this was actually a part that really surprised me. There was 10 minutes left of the movie still, and the main guy, Chance, fucking dies. He's like,
he fucking horrifying death, by the way.
Yeah, they finally catch the guy, and I think that's the way to, like, he gets his goal. He achieves the taking down Masters. He's got him like on the wall with his gun to his back. And they've already completed the sting operation, and one of Masters' guys pulls a shotgun out of a locker, and Chance turns around to shoot him and just takes a shot directly to the face. And that's another part where like a squib goes off, or like blood is splashed on his face in such a way where you're like, oh fuck, he's just dead. Like there's no way.
Yeah, there's a giant hole in his face, and Vukovich is like, talk to me. It's like, bro,
dude, nothing is going to make this man talk again. He's dead. And I was like, damn, there's like 10 minutes left of this movie. And he's dead. Because I was fully expecting what would happen would be that the partner was the one that was going to get shot. As soon as I saw the shotgun pulled into the situation, I was like, oh man, the partner's going to get killed. But no, the main character gets fucking executed. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah, and it's very much the kind of archetypal thing in the movie of like this obsession driving you to the end, and it ultimately is just nothing, and you're gonna die.
Right. It's to make a very very unrelated kind of comparison, I guess. It's kind of like how Gollum bites off Frodo's fucking finger in Lord of the Rings and has the ring for all of 10 seconds before he falls into the volcano and dies. like that's kind of what happened here, was like he got the bust that he wanted, and then he immediately gets shot in the face.
Yeah. And he basically, it's like the most brutal death in the movie, and it's like nothing. And he holds onto it for the moment with Vukovich, but it's unrelenting. It's a great neo-noir movie.
Yeah. I might actually say the most brutal death in the movie is Masters at the end.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, I guess it's not the most visual
for him.
Right. It's not the most visually like impactful one. Like what happens is Vukovich, chases him down after the bust went horribly wrong, and he catches him in the middle of burning down his counterfeiting operation, and he kind of like lets his guard down, and Masters like whacks him in the head with a piece of wood, and he's putting shredded up money over him, and he's gonna like light him on fire and just have him burn up with the counterfeiting equipment and stuff. But like from underneath all this shredded money, he like pulls out his gun and shoots him, and Masters was holding like a rolled up piece of paper that he had lit on fire, and he drops it on the ground into the gasoline that he's standing in, and then he's just engulfed in flames.
Yeah.
And as he's engulfed in flames, Vukovic is just shooting him repeatedly in the chest.
Yeah, and then he runs out of bullets and he keeps clicking it.
Yeah,
There's even one shot where I think it's from like a kind of Exorcist style shot of like where it like flashes black and white.
It did, yeah.
Just for a moment, and it was very strange. It was really cool though.
Yeah, I think that was like the first shot that he gets off after he's on fire. Like when he starts unloading the gun is when it does like that black and white flash.
And,
very cool villain death.
yeah. At the end, there are these two women that we haven't really mentioned, but they're like Rick Masters' like side pieces or whatever. And then once he dies, they get in a relationship together and take his car and go off at the end. It's like, okay,
that was fucking hilarious. I was like, the lesbians made off with all of his car and his riches and stuff. It's crazy.
There's a lot of the weird Friedkin homoerotic stuff in this movie. a bunch of naked men, a couple lesbians. There's like Rick Masters and Richard Chance saying "You're beautiful, baby." Or
yeah, that was funny. I like that.
I think my favorite shot in the movie, and Friedkin talks about how his biggest influence was like the French New Wave, which makes the name The French Connection really funny. There's this jump cut basically into Live and Die in LA, where it's Ruth, his informant, and Richard. They're like about to have sex, and they're making out, and then it jumps to afterward, with him sitting in the hallway and her laying on the bed. I don't know. I liked that cut and the shot from the hallway. It was cool. And that's basically To Live and Die in LA. It's kind of a hard movie to summarize. It's very archetypal, very vibey, but
vibey.
It really works.
For sure. It's definitely like, as you said, it's like a genre of its time as well, kind of similar sort of movie to The French Connection, because they're both like cop films. About
police procedurals or whatever.
Yeah, about like sort of a thing that is very much of that time, like the whole heroin from Europe thing in The French Connection. Like that is very early 70s, I think. Just in the premise alone.
And there's not a lot of like money talk in The French Connection. There's a lot of like logistic kind of stuff of like how to get things somewhere, but there's not a lot of like, we need like 30,000 fronted here and whatnot. So maybe that's like a 70s, 80s disconnect. Unless you have anything else to say on Live and Die in LA, we could probably talk about The French Connection.
Yeah, let's talk about The French Connection.
Yeah. The first main thing is Friedkin. I mean, the thing with The French Connection is like it's remembered for the car chase. That's what people talk about. And Friedkin famously said that the car chase is like one of the quintessential cinematic things. Like you can't really do a car chase in a novel. You definitely can't do it on stage. Kind of do it in a video game, but like Friedkin's a boomer, so like he wouldn't really talk about that. And I mean boomer literally. He is a baby boomer.
Oh, I think he's older than baby boomer because he was born. He was born in the 30s. Baby boomer applies to like the boom post World War II. He's pre that.
Damn. Okay, he's like, fuck. What generation is before the boomers?
Is that Greatest Generation or is that the one before?
I guess it is. Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been like. I don't even know what the meaning behind Greatest Generation is. Is it because they fought?
It's the generation that fought in World War II. That's
I mean, he would have been too young for that.
Yeah.
He would have been like the tail end of the Greatest Generation, I guess.
Yeah. He's pretty close in age. He was pretty close in age when he was alive to Woody Allen. So, yeah.
Okay.
I thought Woody was a baby boomer, but maybe not. But yeah,
boomer
so
in
he's
the
like,
in the not literal sense, but like the
so not a literal boomer, a spiritual boomer.
the spiritual sense. Yeah, thank you.
So he wouldn't really take to video games, but the car chase is a fundamentally visual concept that the tension arises from like where things are and how you set that up, and like that, like Brian De Palma talking about an action scene. Uh,
Yeah.
so the French Friedkin talks about when he was making the French Connection, he was kind of reacting to Bullet, which is the other like 68, the other car chase movie that everyone talks about. I just recently watched it. Really good. It's got very much a dad movie, like the Kino Corner would describe it.
Yeah.
uh,
I guess
it's
before we like really get into, oh, you know what? Finish your point first, actually.
sure, yeah. With this car chase, he wanted to differentiate from Bullet, where Bullet was shots of San Francisco, but with all of like everything is cleared out. They've got all the permits they need. They do it legally. And so with the French Connection, Friedkin was like, let's not do that. Let's do it illegally.
Yeah, he.
So all of those collisions you see are real. Those are real car accidents. They caught him. They put him on screen.
Yeah,
He is actually crashing that car into unsuspecting people. It's psychotic.
he had that sort of like punk guerrilla vibe to his style of filmmaking that is like you want to hear more stories about that. Like there was a thing we were talking about before we recorded this, a clip that was going around right around when he died, of him talking about how when they filmed that chase sequence, there was like a New York City like official that they basically went to, and they were like, hey, can we do this like chase sequence by your trains here?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, no, but I'll lose my job if I let you do this. And then they basically bribed him, like, I think it was like $30,000.
No, they didn't bribe him. That's the thing. He basically says, I'll lose my job if I do this. And they're like, okay, well, I guess we'll go to someone else. He's like, I didn't say I wouldn't do it. I just said I'll lose my job to do it. And he's like, I need $30,000 in a duffel bag and a plane ticket to Cambodia or whatever.
It was a plane ticket to Jamaica.
Yeah. Because in 1971, you could retire with $30,000.
Yeah, so he just like, they were like, okay. And they gave him $30,000 and a plane ticket to Jamaica. And then he just let them do their thing, and then he presumably went to Jamaica and lived the rest of his life there.
Lost his job, went to Jamaica.
Which is just crazy that, like, imagine being that guy where, like, your financial decision to fuck up your entire career and go to Jamaica is permanently, like, preserved in the National Film Registry in the Library of Congress.
Yeah.
As being historically significant to the history of film.
Yeah.
That is the funniest thing that could ever happen. Like that would be like, that is like a grandfather story. You know what I mean? Like your grandfather would be like, yeah, when
I was your age.
When I was your age, William Friedkin gave me $30,000 and a plane trip to Jamaica for so he could make the French Connection. And you'd be like, "Oh, damn, Grandpa, that's crazy. Time to go to bed."
Oh, go off.
Oh,
bit base. There's another Friedkin story. I think it was in that we were talking about this before we started, but there's this clip of best of from his cruising commentary. And there was another one where he was like, there's a friend of mine helped me with like a certain part of the movie. He's a leading part of like the Gambino crime family. He's also a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Shit like that.
Just one of the biggest fucking Italian mafia families in the United States. Oh, and he's a good friend. He's a good friend of mine.
A homie, you know. This, the chattest filmmaker to live.
Just amazing.
And the other reason I mentioned Bullet, I remember now, is the producer of French Connection also produced Bullet.
Okay.
Which I thought was interesting. But actually, what is French Connection? It's it's a very similar concept to Live and Die in LA, with Gene Hackman as this racist cop.
Yeah, it is worth mentioning that how I watched this movie. Because, I think it was both Criterion and Disney had censored the French Connection in their like most recent releases of the movie, and they had taken out dialogue where the main character is, you know, dropping N-bombs, and it's like, well, why would you censor that? Because like you're watching a 70s movie, and like the 70s movie thing is having like shitty main characters. You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, you can't have context.
Right, exactly.
You can't have like artistic depictions of things that happened.
Right, exactly. Like
because that's racist.
Right.
You know?
It is part of his like him being racist is part of his character, and on some level you are rooting for him to you know, acquire his fucking goal of taking down the criminals in this movie. But of course, again, he's a flawed character, and ultimately his flaw also is kind of an undoing in a way, but of a different kind, I guess. But yeah, I watched it on Disney Plus in Canada, which Disney Plus Canada actually did not censor the movie, which is kind of weird to think about.
Canadians doing something good for once, you know?
Right, yeah. The idea of Canada being the country that doesn't censor quote-unquote racist content in a film while it happens in the United States, it kind of makes you sick to think about, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
for God's sake.
If America is the one that is censoring movies and not Canada, I mean, what
the hell?
What is there to live for?
Right.
So, needless to say, I watched it on Blu-ray.
Right.
And my other favorite part of this movie is Roy Scheider, who I think it's really awesome. He's the other cop. It's like a buddy cop concept, similar in To Live and Die in LA. And actually, in an interview, Friedkin was talking about Roy Scheider. At this point, Roy Scheider didn't really have a lot of movies under his belt, maybe nothing. And Friedkin never auditioned actors because he just felt weird about it. Right. So if he would just see someone in something and then meet with them, and if they were right for the part, he would take them. And he saw Roy Scheider in like this off-Broadway production or something that he was like, you want to be in the French Connection? And then Roy Scheider had his career. He started Jaws, and so that was an interesting story.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that I actually did not know that he wasn't really that big of a fan of like auditions and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, he said he thinks it's like embarrassing for the actor, and he just wants the right person for the part. And if they say something, like if they say they see the character one way and he sees it another way, he goes with another actor. He very much has that like Hitchcock, Godard, like actors are models type of directing, which at least in the way that he makes movies, like film being a visual medium, and in the moment, like he was talking about this in a different interview, like, or maybe it was the same one that I'm referencing, but like the thing with film acting versus stage acting stage acting. You do the show straight through 3 different times that night or whatever. That's a different kind of acting than like you have to go from 0 to like seeing the demon in The Exorcist in 2 seconds. Like that's what you're doing, and then the next thing is a love scene or something, because you generally shoot out of order unless you're a freak like Refn and you shoot it in order. But regardless, there's a certain type of person that has to be able to go on and go off, and that's kind of how he sees film acting. And it's I get it, because he has a lot of problems with like method actors. I shared something in the Discord of him talking about dealing with them, where like he tells this story of working with Nick Nolte, and he was like, yeah, a lot of times when you're working with actors like this, you just gotta lie to them and just like make some shit up. And like he was like, Nick Nolte would like write a 300-page novel about this character and give it to me, and I'd start reading, and it was like, and I'd be like, this is fucking terrible, and I throw it away. Then the next day, Nick Nolte's like, did you read what I gave you? And he's like, yeah, it was great, it was awesome. And now basically what you do is you go through this door and you hit this mark. Like,
very much. Oh no. Anyway, do this.
Yeah. It's
really happy
kind
for
of
you,
like
or sorry that happened. Either way,
yeah.
Stand here and say this.
It's very David Mamet in on directing film, where it's very much about like showing up, hitting your mark, saying your lines, kind of thing.
Right.
He has very much like he does not fucking deal with bullshit. If you hear him talk about Al Pacino,
Yeah,
it is hilarious. Well, I'll send you a clip that we could like drop right here of him talking about Al Pacino.
Sure.
It's amazing.
Incredible. So do we kind of want to like give another little synopsis of The French Connection? Like,
yeah, we can. I mean, I feel like a lot of people have seen it. It's like
Yeah.
a classic of film history, but we
I
can give
guess-
a general idea.
basically take the premise of To Live and Die in LA, but take out the LA, put in New York.
Yep.
Take
Very
out the
New York movie.
Yeah, it's interesting that one is, they're just opposite coasts.
Yeah.
One, you take out the money counterfeiting and replace it with French people trying to import. Just replace it with French people.
French people. Yeah.
Trying to import heroin to the United States and sell it to some Italians, basically.
Yeah.
And the main character is a detective. Gene Hackman's character is a detective. They call him Popeye.
Yeah,
like
Popeye
that's his,
Doyle or something. Jimmy
like
Popeye
his-
Doyle. Yeah.
that's like his nickname, I guess, through
Yeah.
most of the through the entire movie, I guess. And he, very much like the main character of To Live and Die in LA, he's very obsessive and is just a
Mhm.
corrupt cop. He'll kind of just do
Yeah.
whatever. And he
Yeah.
they're trying to, I guess the entire plot kind of hinges around the French people are using this friend of theirs who's like a kind of like a rich, more influential French guy. I think he's involved in like film production or something, right? And they use
Something like that, yeah.
use his car as a means to transport the heroin to New York. And
Yeah.
the and Gene Hackman is like, he really wants to get them. And
Yeah.
he and his partner are like, I think probably one of my favorite parts of the movie, besides the car chase, is when they're like ripping apart this French guy's car. And
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's like this big scene of, you just see like they're ripping the rugs off of the bottom of the flooring, and like they've disassembled the entire car, and they're like, man, we haven't found it anywhere here. And they ask the mechanic, they're like, how much did the car weigh? And he's like 4,795 pounds or something. And they're like, oh, the owner's manual says here 4,675 or something. And they're like, they're still they're
still overweight. Yeah,
still overweight. Yeah, like what's going on here? And then the the mechanic is like, well, the only thing I haven't checked yet was the rocker panels. They're like, you fucking idiot. Open them now. And sure enough, they open it and it was right there.
Yeah,
and like
it's a really great like how the suspense is built in this scene. It's really cool how just tearing apart a car is like one of the key pivotal suspense scenes in the movie.
Right, and the suspense is added because this French guy, I think his name is Devereaux.
Sounds right.
He is like at this place, at this garage where like stolen vehicles are brought to when they are, you know, found, and he's like, do you have my car here? I need my car. And like he's being the guy at the impound or whatever is like delaying him. So like not only do they have to find the drugs in the car before like things get too out of hand with the guy looking for his car, but then they have to like reassemble his car and like put everything back the way it was and bring it to him and be like and pretend that they didn't just search his car for drugs. Because they obviously if they just take the drugs, they won't catch the people they were selling it to in like the drug bust. So they needed him to get the car back in like a pristine condition as it was before. And they managed to do it, and it's a pretty funny, like it's pretty funny how clueless the guy is when they pull up. They're like, oh yeah, it was found just down by this such and such place, and we've got it right over here for you. And he's like, my car's here right now. I'm like, yeah.
It just made me think of this is gonna sound really ridiculous that I'm making this comparison.
Okay.
Makes you think of this scene from Drake and Josh.
Oh yeah.
Where they're trying to get this sheep out of the garage and hide it from their dad, and their dad's working on their car, and so Josh like shuts the engine door on him.
Yeah.
Like, holds it down.
Yeah, and he like when he lets him out, he's like, "What were you doing?"
He's like, "What? It just pulled up out of here. I don't even know." Like...
Man, I need to rewatch some of that show because Drake and Josh was like one of my favorite like kid sitcoms back in the day. Oh my god!
Yeah, it's the OG. Like
it's fantastic.
There's a Drake and Josh reference in his William Friedkin podcast. Did you ever expect that to happen?
At some point, a Nickelodeon fucking reference had to happen.
Yeah,
SpongeBob, Drake and Josh, whatever. It always
Danny Phantom. Like,
good lord,
it's gotta happen.
But yeah, they return the guy's car, and he you know the actual French guy that was specifically there to do this drug deal, you know, he gets the car, and they go meet the Italian guys, and they you know show that the heroin is indeed in the rocker panels, and there's like this really funny part in that scene where they've got like this, again using this term, they got like this little nerdy twink guy there, and they're like they take out a little bit of the heroin and they put it on this little thing, and then like the nerdy guy like takes a little bit of liquid and he like puts a little droplet on the heroin, and they're like watching it, and it like the liquid's changing all these different colors, and then he kind of like looks up with like this satisfied smile. He's like, yeah. It's real, it's legit. And all the Italians are like celebrating.
Yeah. What else? I mean, it's one of those like classic movies that you just kind of have to watch.
Yeah. It's I guess one of the other points to be made is like throughout the entire movie, like everyone else on the force hates Popeye Doyle because like some hunches he had made in the past had resulted in like an officer getting killed. And like throughout the entire movie you see him just operating on pure instinct the entire time. And like that's that car chase scene really is just like he's kind of just goes into like this autopilot mode where he once he has a suspect in his view, it doesn't matter what kind of carnage he causes to get that person. And he's like chasing down this train, and he's like in the wrong lane of traffic, and he's like smashing into all these other cars and like hitting a wall, and like all this other crazy shit is happening. And it's like chasing this guy resulted in how many injuries, how much property damage. It resulted in like a subway security guard getting shot in the chest by the guy he's chasing. Like, just people are getting killed everywhere and like injured.
Two separate times in this movie, a carriage with a baby are in danger.
Yeah. And then, of course, that is famously referenced in the S+ tier Keanu Reeves film, Speed, if you've seen that.
I have not seen that. It's I think Mike shared that it's based on a Japanese movie called The Bullet Train, not to be confused with the novel Bullet Train made into the Brad Pitt movie Bullet Train.
Okay.
Because Bullet Train was a Japanese novel, but anyway.
Anyway, I guess brief tangent on the movie Speed. It's like Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock are on a bus, and there's like a terrorist played by fucking guy that played King Koopa in the Mario movie. I forget his name. Not the new Mario movie. Fucking the old ass one with John Leguizamo. Why am I forgetting his name? Anyway,
why would you remember his name?
No, it's like fuck. Who is? Hold on. This is
King
stupid.
Koopa from the Mario movie. Why would you remember that?
Fucking hold on. President Koopa. Sorry, he looks like Donald Trump. Right. With cornrows.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Wigger Trump, yeah.
Wigger Trump, played by fucking Dennis Hopper. Why couldn't I remember Dennis Hopper's name? Jesus Christ.
Dennis Hopper was in the Mario Brothers movie? God damn.
Yeah, he plays King Koopa, who is Donald Trump with fucking cornrows. I'm not even kidding.
Insane.
In the middle of recording this podcast, I'm sending you the picture right now on Discord so we can capture your actual reaction to seeing this character.
All right.
That's King Koopa. That is Dennis Hopper.
Holy fuck. That is like Wigger Trump. Like, that's what that is.
So the premise of the movie is that Dennis Hopper is like this expert bomb guy, and he puts a bomb on the bus. And like, this is the Keanu Reeves movie.
Or Mario Brothers. Okay.
This is the Keanu Reeves movie Speed. Okay. He puts a bomb on the bus, and once the bus goes over 50 miles per hour, if it goes under 50 miles per hour, the bomb goes off.
Right.
They'll blow up the bus. So like they have to keep driving. And Sandra Bullock is like just a passenger on the bus, and Keanu Reeves is like a cop that's trying to stop Dennis Hopper. And she's driving the bus, and he's on the bus with them. And there's like this woman pushing a baby carriage across the street, and the bus slams into it, and Sandra Bullock like covers her eyes and is screaming and crying. And when the bus hits the baby carriage, a bunch of cans go flying everywhere. Like it was just some lady picking up cans and putting them in a baby carriage. So Sandra Bullock is like screaming and freaking out, and Keanu Reeves just goes, "It's just cans." It's so stupid.
Yeah.
It was cans.
There's a baby carriage in peril in the Brian De Palma The Untouchables movie.
Mm-hmm.
The image of the baby carriage in peril is a very striking image to use.
Would you put a baby carriage in a movie now? I don't know. It's like counterfeiters. You don't put them in movies anymore, just like baby carriages.
Well, I think baby carriages are still used. Like, that's the thing.
Well, yeah, I don't know if it's like if it's in the cinematic lexicon anymore.
Maybe not. On that point, I was like, this was the train of speaking of train, a train of thought that I lost earlier was I saw there was a trailer for this new serial killer movie, and I was like, are people making movies about serial killers in 2023? When was the last serial killer that wasn't just a school shooter?
Right.
It feels like it's very Gen X. It's very like early millennial to like be interested in that. Not that I'm not interested. Like I like Zodiac. I like This is a weird tangent, but I don't know. It's
This
strange.
is a tangent
like,
episode, it seems.
yeah. The tangentially related to William Friedkin.
Mhm.
The just this thing of like different genre movies being made of them. I think it's like a symptom of just wanting to recapture an older energy that's gone, but not knowing what new energy to put into a film now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you think it might
tough,
be because of
and
all the like serial killer documentaries that get like a shitload of views and stuff on Netflix and stuff like that? Do you think it honestly might be that simple that they're like, maybe if we make a movie about serial killers, a lot of people will go watch it?
it probably has something to do with that. That's probably the like pitch to the financiers or whatever, that it's like a true crime type movie.
Yeah.
And everyone, but it's just like all of the good serial killer movies have been made. Like, why are we doing another one? Like,
Right.
and they're all slashers. Anyway.
I guess
Weird.
to kind of
Weird bit of tangents there. I don't know where we got off.
President Koopa, Trump Wigger, fucking Speed, Keanu Reeves, and
put that on your bingo card now.
Yeah. The sense of like bingo, Drake and Josh.
That's my like fucking Manchurian Candidate, like Winter Soldier phase, Wigger Trump, Keanu Reeves. Like.
Did you just say Wigger Soldier?
No,
you totally did.
I did not attempt to.
You definitely did.
I mean, I'm keeping it. Wigger Soldier? Are you serious? Like,
I swear that's what you said.
Captain America, the Wigger Soldier?
Yeah. Anyway, back to the actual fucking movie we were talking about.
Yeah.
Like throughout the entire movie, it's kind of like it's a point that is made that everyone on the force does not like Doyle because of his past operating on instincts, resulting in a cop getting killed, and then like the movie's finale is like this big drug bust where all these like mafia guys and these French dudes are like being captured by they're being arrested by the cops, and Gene Hackman kind of chases down the main like French guy that was the one that was in charge of smuggling the heroin in. He like chases him into like a basement, and his partner, who his nickname is Cloudy as well. Just throwing that out there. He shows up, and they're like both in this like disgusting like muddy basement, and they're trying to find this guy, and another cop comes down like a different stairwell, and they see him, and Gene Hackman just fucking shoots him, thinking it's the French guy, and he kills him. Like he just kills a cop in the middle of like this big arrest at the end, and his partner kind of just goes up and like he's like, you killed him, and he basically just doesn't care at all, and he's just like, he's in here, I saw him, and then he kind of runs off again, and you just hear another gunshot, and then the movie just ends with like just kind of like a text thing where it's just telling you like what happened to most of the criminals that were arrested.
Yeah.
And
as if it's like a true story or something.
Right. And it's great because like almost every criminal, it's like such and such charge was reduced, or the charge was dropped, or so on and so forth, and like lacking evidence and so on like that. And it's like, this fucking guy, they did all this work for him to just blindly charge in and get another cop killed, and then their poor police work resulted in like some of the guys that they were trying to put away either escaping or having the charges dropped or their sentences reduced. Yeah. And it's like another they just got a cop killed for nothing, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like the main kind of plot, the main thing that drives the plot of this movie is like this big heroin deal that basically results in nobody going to prison, a cop getting killed by another cop, and then the cops just get transferred to a different division, and that's like how
Yeah.
the movie ends. And it's like, god damn, what a soul crushingly miserable ending to the movie in a good way.
Yeah.
To be
Yeah,
fair,
yeah.
like it hits you
It's-
hard.
It's how it ends with just that you don't even see who shoots who. You just hear the gunshot, and it's just a view of like the hallway,
Right.
and it fades to black and goes to the end cards.
Right. Yeah. Very, very effective ending where it just kind of puts everything in perspective, where you just really have to think about like what the hell were they doing? Like there's just like all this insane stuff happening, and it barely resulted in any actual action in the end.
Yeah,
There was no real justice in the end.
Yeah, I'm looking at this the theatrical release poster. It's got the image of him shooting the French guy, which is a pretty cool scene in the movie.
Right.
And
yeah, I did like that.
It says Doyle is bad news but a good cop.
Is he?
And that's the question.
I don't think so.
The time, and it also says the time is just right for an out and out thriller like this. They don't do movie posters like they used to, folks.
Yeah, we got to bring that back.
Yeah, we need like actual like ad copy on movie posters. Like,
yeah, fantastic.
But yeah, French
Hell of a
Connection,
movie.
masterpiece. To Live and Die in L.A., pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
Worth a rewatch if your first couple watches of them, your first watch of either of these movies, you don't really get it. Like with me, it's one of those that I probably rewatch these movies like going forward. I think To Live and Die in L.A. is one I could just put on, and just let it play.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I love going back to Live and Die in L.A. I love how it starts with that song. Is that Wang Chung or whatever?
Right.
To Live and Die in L.A.
yeah. The music in To Live and Die in L.A. was great. There was a lot of there were a lot of sequences where it was just sort of like, as you said, a lot of Friedkin stuff, or a lot of scenes in, I think you said it was Sorcerer, there's not really a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
And there are scenes in To Live and Die in L.A. where it's just kind of like the scene is just the music and there's visuals and there's not really anything like plot related going on. Like when you see Willem Dafoe show up there's like this place where his girlfriend or whatever she is and the other girl work, and they're like dancing in like these costumes with like makeup on. And there's kind of like a shot where it shows like her eyes, and she's got like this cat-like makeup on her face, and it's a really close-up of like the top half of her face while this music is playing, and it was like almost a music video-esque in that like particular moment.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, there is also a French Connection 2 that I've heard mixed things about, but
was Friedkin involved in that?
No,
I figured not. I remember seeing it.
But Gene Hackman was. Gene Hackman was.
Yeah. I remember seeing an interview with him talking about how they made a bunch of sequels to The Exorcist that all sucked ass. And he's he's just talking shit about them, and he's like, they're all awful.
The thing is, I've actually heard a lot of like good things about the Exorcist sequels.
Okay.
Particularly 3. People talk a lot about because that's the one Blatty directed himself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm interested in them. Same with French Connection 2, directed by John Frankenheimer, who was kind of big in the 50s and the 60s, I think. But Gene Hackman also did French Connection 2, so...
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, that's, I mean, William Friedkin, R.I.P.
Yep.
Pour one out for one of the greats.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would have balked at being considered one of the great filmmakers of all time, but I think he was.
It doesn't change the truth.
Even if you just take like people talk about his later work being not as great. I mean, you got French Connection, Sorcerer, The Exorcist, To Live and Die in L.A. I mean, that's a banger combo right there. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, even a lot of the other great directors also kind of struggled to find their footing decades past their prime. Like, Hitchcock, his last like 5 movies, I think, weren't really that great compared to the stuff he did before.
And same with the early work. Like a lot of people talk about Friedkin's early work not being as great because he was still it was still kind of the 70s haven't really started yet, so the auteur thing hasn't happened. So he's more of a journeyman. His first movie was like a weird musical with Sonny and Cher, which I'd be fascinated to see. He did The Boys in the Band, which is based on this like pretty famous play about gay men in New York.
I'm holding back every fiber of my being to reference Rusty Hinges and The Boys from the Brig again. I did it last episode, and I'm thinking about it again, and I can't do it.
Ryan Murphy remade The Boys in the Band in like 2020 or something. So,
yeah,
but yeah, rip to a real one
for sure.
Yeah.
The I guess, do we want to kind of segue into what we're doing next week? Because we have decided on that.
Yeah,
as well.
Did we? I forget.
yeah, the Kitano stuff.
Oh yes, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this is kind of just like sneak peek of what's coming up next. I had watched the Takeshi Kitano biopic called Asakusa Kid on Netflix, and I was like, damn, this is like really good for a Netflix movie. So I was like, hey, I know some theater kids. Skylar is one of my friends. He's a theater kid. This is a theater kid movie. Let's watch
friend of the pod, Skylar.
Yeah. I was like, let's watch this in voice chat some night. So then Cody was there, and we all watched this Takeshi Kitano biopic, and it was like, shit, we should do an episode on Takeshi Kitano, but we had the Friedkin thing lined up first because he had just died. So yeah, the next episode is going to be on Takeshi Kitano's 2 first directorial films where he what was it? It was Violent Cop and Boiling Point. 1989 and 1990.
As well as
we'll also be talking about the biopic as well. Yeah. So it's like a almost a triple feature, but I think mainly we're going to be focusing on the 2 films that he directed, not the biopic. So if you're watching this and you are thinking of tuning in for next week's episode, watch Asakusa Kid on Netflix before you tune in.
And Violent Cop and Boiling Point are on Tubi, I believe. That's where we're going to be watching them. So if you want to watch those as well.
Yeah, Tubi is a free streaming service, so you don't have to have an account or anything. You can just go on there and watch those movies. They are free.
There are ads, but they don't like do the old TV thing where they like change the movie.
And if you're a little salty sea dog, you can just have ad block. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back next week talking about Takeshi Kitano. Thanks for joining.
Yep. Tune in next time. See ya.
Do you physically attack people you work with?
There have been occasions.
You've slapped people before, haven't you?
A priest in The Exorcist. He was not an actor. And I had read that other great directors had done that. John Ford, George Stevens had done that.
Whack.
Yeah. And I first I took him by the shoulders, and I asked him if he loved me and if he trusted me. And he said, I do, Bill. I said, okay, and I told the cameras to get ready, and I hit him as hard as I could across the face, and I said, roll it, and he went right into the scene. The shock of it, the shock brought forth the tears, and afterwards he embraced me and thanked me.
You can't pull that card too often, though, can you?
No, I haven't done it more than 570 times.